Well, hi there! My name is Clint LOVES. I'm a zoologist and evolutionary biologist, so I know a lot of animals. But not all of them. Not even close. I mean, heck, there are probably more than 1 million species of just beetles. So there's a lot to discover, even for me. And today, I have 10 species of really cool animals that I didn't know existed. I'd love to know how many of them you could name before this video. And this is the animal that made me want to do this again, because I have no idea how this has escaped my attention until now. It's called a sea moth, though I like their scientific name much better, Pegasidae, because they truly are the Pegasus of the sea, though they don't really use their giant wing-like pectoral fins to fly or even swim. In fact, I can't find any evidence that they can swim at all. They rather walk around on the bottom of the ocean with their pelvic fins, looking for worms and other small burrowing invertebrates that they can suck out of their burrows using their long, often tube-like mouths, which are actually located below that long nose. I really don't know what the giant pectoral fins do for them other than maybe break up their shape as being a fish and provide some lift to keep the front of the body out of the sand as they stroll along the ocean floor, which is an activity that they generally do in pairs. It sounds like more often than not when you find one, you find two, likely a male-female pair, just out taking a stroll. They're adorable! And they're covered in armor and shed their skin every few days, likely to remove parasites. So that's a lot about them. But what are they? I mean, what are they related to? Seahorses and pipefish, which might mean that I need to do a phylogeny on that clade soon. I mean, what are the other relatives of seahorses? But right now, I think we need to take a look at this. I mean, until recently, I had no idea what that was. Though, there are a few who deny it. What they do, they are the best. So what are they? And what do they do? These are skeleton panda sea squirts, Clavalina ossipandae. The little bottle bone panda. Even though I would say that they look more like high contrast Chinese bamboo bears than they do like actual pandas. So what are they? Well, they're tunicates. And tunicates are some of the strangest animals on the planet. They're chordates, like you and me, but they live their lives more like sea sponges than they do like most of our cousins. They're sessile, bottom-dwelling filter feeders that pull water into one siphon and pump it out another, filtering little morsels of food out in between using their pharynx. As larvae, they're free-swimming with primitive brains, but as adults, they give up all of that. So these mini mindless, skeletonized marine false pandas are brainless, ironically boneless, bottom-dwelling sea sifters. The structures that look like a rib cage are actually blood vessels. We still don't know what the false panda eye spots do. But we've only really known about these guys since 2017 when divers off the coast of Japan started posting pictures of them, and they were only formally described last year. So I don't feel too bad for not knowing about them until recently. Essentially, nobody did. A big thanks to our friends at boot.dev for sponsoring today's video. If you're looking to learn development in a way that actually keeps you engaged, boot.dev is a standout choice. Boot.dev uses game design elements, XP, quests, achievements to keep you moving forward. But it's not just for fun. The platform is all about doing the work, writing real code, solving real problems, and building actual projects. Boots, their AI bear wizard, helps you work through roadblocks with Socratic-style questions that deepen your understanding. It's a smarter way to stay sharp and keep progressing. The curriculum is designed to prepare you for real-world dev jobs with a deep, practical understanding from technical interviews to the challenges you'll face on the job. You can explore all the content for free, and if you want full access to the interactive features, use my code CLINT for 25% off your first payment. If you choose the yearly plan, you'll get 25% off the full year. And with boot.dev's 30-day refund guarantee, it's easy to try with zero risk. So check out boot.dev today and start leveling up your future. But this next one seems like an animal that many of you might know well. It's called a ring-tailed vontsira. But I only discovered the vontsira a little over a year ago when we made this video. But the vontsiras are among the Malagasy mongooses. which are only arguably mongooses. And this one is probably, other than the fossa, or the fossa, my favorite of the Malagasy mongooses. If for no other reason than that it actually looks like a panda more than did the last animal that we looked at. It's like a civet-shaped panda that is neither of those things. It's closer to being a hyena. But you should watch this video if you want to know more about that. But ring-tailed vontsiras, like all of the Malagasy mongooses, are endemic to the island of Madagascar, an island off the coast of what was, until recently, another island. Meaning that it is populated by a relatively small number of animal lineages that have subsequently diversified to fill many of the niches filled by other lineages in most other places. These guys aren't huge, coming in at under a kilo, but they eat everything. Fruit, insects, eggs, and basically any sort of vertebrate that it can overpower and kill. They're agile and at home in the trees or on the ground. It's quite the little monster. I love them. So that is an animal that looks like something that it isn't. And so is this. It's called a hairy stone crab. And guess what it isn't? A crab. Though, being in the same clade as the hermit crabs, they are among the closest relatives of the true crabs. So it is as much a crab as Malagasy mongooses are mongooses. Which is to say, arguably. But they are not crab-shaped due to common ancestry, homology, but rather due to convergence, analogy. And convergence on the crab body plan has its own term, carcinization, which, for all the attention that it gets, appears to have only really happened 5 or so times in the decapods. One of those being the true crabs, and the other 4 within the hermit crab clade. The porcelain crabs, the coconut crabs, the king crabs, and these. One of which may be the closest relatives to hairy stone crabs. So this is some sort of true crab shaped hermit crab cousin. Could even be a hermit crab itself. That is hairy. These guys are pretty small, maxing out at about an inch across. They're incredibly cryptically colored, except for their bright blue antennae. They're found in the shallows and tide pools in southern and western Australia. I think we should go look for them soon. But while we're in the ocean, check this out. Now this is an animal that I have seen in videos about deep ocean creatures for a long time. I had seen them before. I knew that they were cephalopods, it's obvious, but I couldn't have told you any more than that. But if you had made me guess what they were called, I probably would have guessed glass squids, and I would have been right. Because that would be a perfectly fitting name for these transparent, tentacled, arm-top hat-wearing, tubular little mollusks. Though little might not be the right word for them. I mean, while some of them are only a few inches long, the only member of the family that I could have named before is the largest mollusk on the planet, the colossal squid. An incredible animal that I've known about for most of my life. So I guess that I have known about glass squids for a long time, but I never in a million years would have guessed that the colossal squid was one. Though discovering that the family is characterized by a very large mantle and relatively small arms covered with suckers or, more importantly, hooks might have helped me get there. I mean, we were finding the hooks of colossal squids embedded deeply into the flesh of dead sperm whales for a long time before we had much other evidence that colossal squids even existed. And they're the most massive of all mollusks, though not as long as giant squids. Big mantles, but little arms. But I never thought of them as transparent. And they may not be. Not all glass squids are. And even those that are, aren't at all times. They still have chromatophores that they can expand to change their color, or to give them color in this case. But most of them generally keep their chromatophores contracted most of the time and stay transparent. Adult glass squids tend to live at depths where only some light filters through. Being transparent pretty much makes them invisible. Though things like their eyes remain opaque, and that would be conspicuous if it weren't for the fact that many of them have bioluminescent regions under their eyes to produce the light on the other side of the eye that is being blocked from passing through the animal by the eye itself. Counter-illumination, which is absolutely astounding. But the most unique and widespread feature of the group is that they concentrate ammonia in their body cavity. This ammonia is lighter than water, so they use this ammonia to make their bodies neutrally buoyant, so they don't need to use energy to keep themselves stationary in the water column. I think every cephalopod is stinking rad, but this group is frankly hard to beat. Glad I know about them now. It's crazy how the more you know about the animal world, the more amazing it becomes. And I will add that just yesterday, Right after I prepared this video, they published the first ever video of a colossal squid in its normal environment. It was a juvenile, and it was quite apparent, or should I say transparent, that it was a glass squid. So it might not have taken me a million years to figure it out after all. But anyway, while we're on the subject of insane bioluminescence, let's take a look at this, the taillight shark, which is an extremely rare deep-sea shark that we know about only because of 4 specimens that we've collected since 1963. This is a little shark, topping out at only about a touch over a half a meter in length. At a glance, it really isn't that remarkable. It's a brownish little shark with a black belly. Other than an anal fin, which it lacks, it has all of the normal shark fins, though the secondary dorsal fin is a bit larger than the primary, which is unusual. And the longer you look at it, the weirder it gets. It has 5 gill slits, which is pretty normal, but the first one has a very odd shape, and they get larger as you move towards the rear of the animal. The pectoral fins are very large and kind of rounded and appear to be used for propulsion, more like what you would see in a chimera than a typical shark. Their eyes appear to be oval in shape instead of round, though their noses are pretty rounded. The upper lobe of the caudal fin has a huge notch in it. Oh, and it glows. The whole shark is covered in photophores that emit light and are probably used to camouflage the shark a bit like the glass squids. That isn't the weirdest glowy fact about them. I mean, there are other sharks that do this. But in front of the cloaca on these guys is a pouch, like what you might find on a kangaroo or something. Except it is lined in glowing papillae, like a wall of luminescent nipples. And they don't keep babies in this light pocket. No. It is full of light-emitting blue fluid that can likely be released as a blue cloud of light whenever one might need such a thing. As for the circumstances under which they release this brilliant blue barrage of bioluminescence, your guess is as good as mine. We don't know. Predator avoidance, attracting mates, hunting, deep-sea raves, we don't know. But it's stinking rad. But not the only rad pouched animal that I didn't know existed, because this is a musky rat kangaroo, which is not a rat, nor a kangaroo, or even a true rat kangaroo, as far as I can tell. It's fairly closely related to both kangaroos and true rat kangaroos, but both of those seem to be more closely related to one another than either of them are to musky rat kangaroos, which probably tells us that the common ancestor of kangaroos and musky rat kangaroos probably looked a lot like a rat kangaroo. But this is the smallest of the lot, coming in at around a half a kilo, maybe a touch bigger, but pretty small. Like real rats, they have hairless ears and scaly tails. They can be differentiated from rat kangaroos by the fact that they have 5 toes on their hind feet, are dark brown in color, and smell, well, musky. They're also diurnally active, which is different from the rat kangaroos. They're only found in the rainforests of northeastern Australia. And that leaves me with just 3 more animals. And one of them is a gigantic aquatic frog. But last time, of the 10 animals I didn't know, 2 of them were absolutely insane sea cucumbers. I mean, I thought that I knew what sea cucumbers were, and then I found those 2. Well, now I know that they were not even the craziest sea cucumbers of all, because there is this. You could have shown this to me, and I would have guessed that it was a whole lot of things, and none of them would be sea cucumbers. I mean, are there other echinoderm lineages that are just going off the rails like this? Look at this thing. It's mesmerizing. It probably gives the feather star a run for its money when it comes to entrancing echinoderms. Those feeding tentacles around the mouth are probably the only obvious giveaway about what this is. There is just one species in this genus, and they are the only known pelagic sea cucumbers. They're the only known truly pelagic echinoderms. So this is probably peak weird for the clade, but you never know. The whole clade is pretty odd. I mean, they generally have 5-part symmetry, pentaradial, but they start off with mirror bilateral symmetry, just like you and me. But then the right side of the organism is basically resorbed, and the remaining side grows until it forms a ring, and then a bunch of arms pop out of it. So yeah, they're all weird. But this one takes the cake. Their swimming doesn't seem to be very purposeful. They seem to primarily just drift around in the deep ocean. And I don't feel bad for not knowing about them. Nobody had observed one in its natural habitat until 1989. But what a magical beast. Okay, so many of you likely know that I used to live in Peru. But what many of you may not know is that for the last 3 months that I lived there, I lived on this island, the island of Amantani. An island that protrudes from the extremely high Lake Titicaca, a mere 4-hour boat ride from the city of Puno, Peru. And that lake, that sits at about 12,500 feet of elevation, contains a fully aquatic, roughly 1 kilogram frog called the Lake Titicaca frog. It has tiny lungs, but copious amounts of skin that allow it to get much of its oxygen directly through the skin itself. A rad frog, but one I've known about for a long time now. But what I didn't know is that in even higher Peruvian lakes, there is another fully aquatic frog, a very close relative of the Lake Titicaca frog, but much larger. Not that a kilogram is small, I mean that's twice the size of a musky rat kangaroo, but this frog, the Lake Junin giant frog, is the largest fully aquatic frog in the world, and one of the largest frogs period, often weighing as much as 2 kilos. Twice the size of the Lake Titicaca frog, though it may have about the same amount of skin. These are nowhere near as wrinkly. In fact, they're often called Andes smooth frogs, though they're still pretty wrinkly. And hopefully we can bring some attention to these amazing giant frogs, as they are in real danger of extinction. But we do have one more animal that was new to me, and I discovered it as a result of someone coming into Clint's reptile room with an animal for me to identify. Apparently someone had posted this video of it online, and nobody had a clue what it was. But it was living in a jar of brackish water that they'd collected. It looked like a feather duster worm and a caddisfly larva teamed up to make a tube and then shot out a whole mess of weird white tentacles that they then slowly retracted into the tube, dragging bits of sand and other things along with them. Not quite a nightmare, but definitely a bit disconcerting. Did I know what it was? No, not exactly. But did I have a better idea than everybody else? Yes, I did. I identified it fairly quickly as being, like a feather duster, an annelid worm. When people think of annelids, they usually think of earthworms, but the truth is that most annelids look very different. They have all sorts of appendages, including crazy head appendages, and some, like the feather duster, live inside of tubes. And I was pretty quickly able to determine that it was some sort of a polyclad worm. But that was about as far as I got right at first. And since that time, I've kept digging. And it appears that I was right. Though saying that it was a polyclad worm isn't much better than identifying a mystery arthropod as a beetle. But now I think I know precisely what it is. An amphoretid worm, which, when I searched for Amphorettidae on YouTube, generated the exact video I'd been shown with the species name Hobsonia florida, which, if you search on Wikipedia, you will learn is a tube-dwelling polyclad worm in the family Amphorettidae, from the Atlantic and Gulf coasts of North America. From other sources, I have learned that they indeed live in brackish water and build their own tubes from sediments and other materials found in their environments, all glued together with mucus, like you do. Sounds like a fun craft for children. They have up to 40 oral tentacles that they stick out and then retract to pull in sediments. It all adds up. So those are 10 animals I didn't know existed. And here are 10 more. How many did you know? And should we do this again? As always, like and subscribe, and we hope to see you real soon. I just want to say thank you to all of these people. These are our stinking rad fans over at Patreon, and they make it possible for us to try new experiments and just bring you content like this all the time. So thank them, and if you'd like to see more content like this or the amazing features we have for our patrons, consider joining them. You can check it out right here. So we just had a little behind the scenes conversation about the fact that we're trying to use AI to learn how to speak to dolphins. And I just want to point out the potential danger of taking a technology that may become more intelligent than humans and using it so that it can communicate with an animal with a brain larger than that of humans. And the only one who doesn't understand what's being said are the humans. We've been looking for a way to get even. But we have these darn flippers. We couldn't make any weapons. You've got access to all the nuclear codes, right? Get him!
That was a really good dolphin impression. Thanks for all the fish.
Yeah, but we've really only known about these guys since 2017 when the divers.
My vote, deep sea raves.
Yeah.